All right, tomorrow is our first test over Chapter 1. It'll be Quiz 1.1b. So I gave you as a study guide Quiz 1.1a. Let's go through this and make sure you got the right answers and make sure you understand why. Question 1. You are thinking about purchasing a cell phone. Before making a decision, you contact the major service providers in your area to obtain some information. For each service provider, you record the cost of the phone itself, the required length of the service contract, whether the phone gives you access to internet, and the average cost per minute for 500 minutes of monthly use. So question A, what are the individuals in this data set? The individuals are the service providers. And if you remember from the first video, individuals are the person, place, or things that are going to be described by the variables. So question B, speaking of variables, asks which variables are you recording for each individual? Circle the numerical variables. So the variables themselves are the cost of the cell phone, the required length of the contract, internet access, and the average cost per minute. Out of all of these variables, the only variable that is not a numerical variable is the, internet access question. That's going to be either a yes or a no question, the internet access question, which of course is not numerical. You'll have to do either a count or a percentage on that one. Okay? Number 2, question 2. Over the last few weeks, you have been finding that your statistics homework takes you an extremely long time each night. Your teacher suggests that you determine how long other members of the class are spending on their homework assignments so that you will know where you stand in comparison. Would it be best to gather the data on homework time by a sample survey, census, observational study, or experiment? Justify your answer. So here I gave you a little leeway. I put 2 answers because I think 2 answers would work. The first answer being a census would be better for a small class, and a sample survey would be better for a huge online class or a seminar. If you remember, a census means that you get everybody to tell you the answer. You actually hit on everybody. Like the Census of the United States, you try to get everyone in the United States to respond. A sample survey, you just need a sample of that population, and then you extrapolate an answer from that. So, of course, if it's a class like our class, the best thing to do is to see what everybody is spending on their homework, and you can figure out all of those measures of center that we've talked about before. A sample survey, a sample of our class, which is only like 25 students, wouldn't be very many people. So I think in our class a census. But if you're in an online class that could have thousands of people, or maybe a big seminar class when you're a freshman in college that can have over 300 people, you're not going to want to talk to every single person, and probably not everybody would answer your questions anyway. So then a sample survey is going to be better. An observational study, I'm not sure how you would do that unless you really sat down and watched everybody do their homework and timed it. And an experiment, you don't want to change how much time they're spending on their homework. You might later, but that's not the question right now. So one of these 2 is going to be the best answer. Question 3. Do Major League Baseball games take less time now than they did last season? To try to answer this question, you obtain data on the lengths of all games played in each of the 2 seasons. Since there were thousands of games played each season, you decide to select the first 100 games played in each of the 2 seasons. Does that make sense? Then you compute the average length of the game for this season and for last season. So, is this an experiment? Went a little too far. Observational study, sample survey, or a census? Well, you are taking a sample, so I can see how you might want to say sample survey first, but you're not taking a survey. You're not actually going and asking people about it. You are just looking at the data. So looking is that key word that means you're going to do an observational study. okay? Because it's not an experiment. You're not changing anything. You're just doing this observational study. And a census, of course, means you would look at every single game, which is not the case. So right here, I wrote down the answer. This would be an observational study since no treatment is being applied. The researchers are not trying to see if they can change the outcome of the game. They're just looking at how things have gone in the past to see if they can find an answer to their question. Okay, now I just want to make sure that a lot of you are going to write in complete sentences that actually make sense. We need to get used to that. When it says explain like this, you really have to explain, and your explanation has to make sense. I'm trying to get you guys college ready, and you don't want to just answer observational study if something says explain. Your professor will not accept that. Question B, describe the populations of interest and the samples chosen in this situation. All right, so I have the two populations are all of the games played last year and all of the games played this year. That means you are trying to extrapolate from a sample that all of the games from last year, all of the games from this year, and compare them. So those are your two populations, or everything you're comparing. But obviously you're not going to look at those thousands of games. So the two samples you're going to be looking at are the first 100 games from this year and the first 100 games from last year. So question C wants you to take it a step further and say, do you think the samples chosen will provide accurate information about the lengths of the baseball games? Why or why not? Okay, guys, you have to answer yes or no, and the why or why not, that's that explanation again, okay? You have to give me a thorough explanation and not just a one-word answer for this. I put that I do not believe that the first 100 games would provide accurate information due to the variability throughout the season. Temperature, attitude, and injury would all come into account. In order to get a better answer to the question, I think that a random sample of games throughout the season would be a better choice. So, I mean, I'm not a huge baseball person, so I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know that the longer you play during the season, the more likely that somebody's going to get injured, which might change the outcome of how long a game is played. I know I've been to games in the spring and in the fall, and sometimes they're really cold, and I think those games might be a little bit shorter sometimes. And then attitude, like maybe towards the end of the season, the players are getting a little bit more bored, and they're going to be shorter games. I can't tell you for sure. I can just tell you that with all of these changes happening throughout the season, you need to get a better sample than just the first 100 games of the year. All right, so that's the end of the review. The quiz will be tomorrow. Please be on time so you can get that part out of the way. And let me know if you have any questions. If you tonight want to make a comment on the website, I will try to get to those and answer them.